Welcome to Hometown Histories, an ongoing project of the Township of Ocean Historical Museum. Today is November 1st, 2017. Today we are here for a conversation on the life of Joe Palaia. He was born in Neptune, New Jersey, and passed away in August of 2016 at the age of 89. I'm Paul Edelson, and here with me today is Joe's daughter Denise and a longtime friend and associate, John Huss. Welcome.
Thanks, Paul.
To both of you. And why don't we start, Denise, with you? Can you tell us a little bit about your family, your mother and father and grandparents?
I'd be thrilled to, Paul. Thank you. My father grew up in Neptune. His mother was an immigrant from Lebanon, and his father came off the boat from Italy. He was so very, very proud of them and what they accomplished. They owned my grandfather owned a barber shop in Neptune on Main Street, and family lived above the barber shop for many years until they moved down the street in Neptune. He absolutely adored his brothers and sisters, Jerry, George, Ray, Elizabeth, and Francis. They had a very tight-knit family. My grandmother would cook for anybody in the neighborhood. My Aunt Liz tells me that anybody who wanted to come to dinner, my grandmother would cook, and everybody was welcomed. It was a very loving family, and my father was very, very proud of them.
That's wonderful. How about the brothers and sisters?
Yeah.
Tell me a little bit more, especially his brother.
Yes. Well, his brothers, Ray and Jerry, were both principals. One was in Pennsylvania and one was in Long Branch. Jerry was a longtime principal in Long Branch. And his sister Elizabeth was a teacher in West Long Branch for almost 30 years. His brother George owned the varsity shop, which many people always talk about. And then he ran the pool for a very long time in Ocean Township, which he was very proud of. And his sister Frances died at a young age. She had 4 children who lived in Wanamassa. She lived on Bendemeer Avenue. His brothers and sisters, they were athletic, as we're going to talk about later, but they were all very educated and were very proud of their heritage. They were tight, as I said earlier, they're a very tight-knit family.
Now, where did your father go to school?
They started out he graduated in Neptune High School. He was president of his class at Neptune and went to Rider College. And he also got a master's degree at Rutgers as well. He's in the Rider College Basketball Hall of Fame, and he's in the Neptune Hall of Fame as well. The Scarlet Flyers honored him. They gave him this big plaque and statue of a Scarlet Flyer, which he was very proud of. He married my mother, Liedel, in 1956 and moved to Ocean Township. That's where the legacy started. We lived on Barber Lane. Came there soon after, and my brother Joey was born 2 years after. Joey ended up having 2 children, Anthony and Adrian, who my father loved dearly. But it was when he moved to Ocean that he started to get his love for the town, and ended up, again with his political career right here.
What was it like at the dinner table at your house?
It's funny. We were more talk sports a lot. We were more of a sports family than a political family, although that conversation always came up. It was interesting because he was, he would go to these meetings. First, he was principal at Wanamassa School, and then he would be involved in politics, and he would always be going, always going. He had a meeting here, meeting there. We'd have dinner at 5 o'clock. Because he would have a meeting somewhere. But eating dinner at 5 o'clock? Well, because he had to go somewhere. He had a meeting, he had planning board, he had council meeting. It was interesting.
Now, let me ask you about sports. John, you have some stories about sports.
Joe to me was, he took a lot of number ones that you can name, but Joe sort of was a number one in an awful lot of areas, except probably number 2 to God. But because he was a very religious man. In fact, he received communion every month, I guess, right? Mm-hmm. Bree and Dave DeRouge. And there's a great name out of the past also. But I went to, I forget the age and when I only summered in Asbury Park until I was 15. And Joe would play for Neptune, and I used to watch this guy with this set shot. And it was this little twisty set shot. You can knock him down, you know. It was funny. And then we played a couple of. We played a couple of softball games with the. We had a club team, the Murray Cardinals, and we played a couple of softball games against probably 3 or 4 even against the teachers and administrators at the schools. And I don't think Joe Palaia ever made an out. I mean, I never saw anybody with the bat in the hand like he could be. He also made the All-State. He made All-State baseball, and Neptune didn't have a baseball team. But he was recognized as such an athlete that the guy put him on with the All-State baseball team. It's incredible, really. But he used to, I know he coached Little League. He loved to talk sports. And of course, he loved his horses, right? Mm-hmm. And he owned a horse at one time. I guess the horse. Horses, yeah. A couple of horses, and one of them won a big derby.
Valiant Lark.
Yeah. And so I served on council with Joe in 1975 to 79. We both got off council together, but he went on to do what he wanted to do, and that was to become a little more in the state of New Jersey, freeholder, and then assembly, state senator, whatever. And we'll get into that later. But as far as another thing that I mentioned, Dave DeRouge. Joe and Dave made up the best referee team there's ever been in the Shore, and they never made a mistake.
According to them.
Yeah, according to them. But they were such a great pair. I saw 4 or 5 games where they refereed, and nobody could complain about them at all. I mean, Joe was maybe a little bit more of the leader sometimes, but they were just a tremendous pair. And other than that, never played golf, so I never got on the golf course.
Well, I saw a couple of games where he was reffing, and he was very fast. I saw in basketball. I mean, it was like lightning getting to the other end.
He wasn't afraid to fly.
No, not at all. Denise, what sports stories do you have?
Well, it's funny because he remembered every game. He could tell me points that he scored. He dribbled between a guy's leg in Lafayette one time. He remembered everything. The shot he took in Neptune that tied the score against Asbury, and the place went wild. He could remember every play, every point he scored, and it just amazed me. And some of these stories he would tell later on, and I'm like, you never told me that before. Oh yeah, I should two-hand set shot, made everything. But he enjoyed playing. He did enjoy baseball, and he did enjoy basketball too. Both sports were 2 of his favorite. And he passed that on to my brother and myself. Now, my mother, who didn't know a baseball from a basketball when she married him, after a few years, she would be sitting up there watching the Yankee games with us. It was amazing how much she learned as time went on, too. But I was so impressed with his knowledge of the sport, the insight that he always had. And it was amazing how he could take any kind of a student and make them an athlete. Over the years, he coached at Wanamassa School when they had basketball. When that school went to 8th grade, and he took that team to a championship. And then when my brother played Little League, he took the 13-year-olds to the state championship. They won at Nescafe Field, which was a huge, huge game. And they ended up going to Fredericksburg, Maryland. And he just still talked about that guy hit a grand slam in the bottom of the 9th and beat him. He still bemoaned that thing. But my brother played, and my brother was very fast as well, and he could steal. He went on, yeah.
We used to go down. We had a good college career.
Yeah, right. He went down to Francis Marion College in South Carolina, and my brother got a baseball scholarship down there.
How many games? Now you're talking North Carolina. How many games did your dad miss?
Not many. And I played basketball at Kutztown, and I played softball and lacrosse at Kutztown as well. And he would come, and my mother too, and snow and rain and sleet and whatever it was, they'd always come. They'd always come.
Just a tremendous family man.
Yeah.
Really. you know, there's a lot of love, you know, but the love for his family was.
Well, it's amazing to go to all these games.
Yeah, she wouldn't miss a
They
thing.
weren't just around the corner.
Well, you know, she's telling me stories that he told me, you know, prior to his passing. I know he was somewhat chair-ridden, I guess, you know, and I used to stop in.
His mind was good. His mind was good.
His mind was sharp as a tack. And he had 1, 2, 3 televisions going on all times.
Right.
You know,
Games on all television, yeah.
But I spent a little time with him, and we chatted a lot about the old days and politics, which we can talk about later.
I want to tell you about the refereeing, though, because when I graduated college and was going into teaching, and I wanted to coach basketball, and I said, you know, Dad, I want to try to coach basketball. I'm going to apply for. He goes, let me ask you. Let me try. Let me have to try something. Try refereeing first. Try refereeing basketball, and if you don't like it, it's fine. I want you to try it. So I tried it, and I wasn't very good at the beginning. It's a very hard thing to pick up right away. And he would go with me every game, and he would give me a tip, whatever it was. One of the things I used to do was give my numbers too quickly. You know, 23, and your numbers are you're going too quick. Every game, 23. You got to slow your numbers down. So I felt as the time went on, 23. And Dad, did I do better? No, still too fast. Finally, it took about 5 years of him coming, and it wasn't just that. There were other things. He would never question my calls. It was more my positioning or whatever. So finally, Dad, because you finally made it. I did the short conference finals, my second year refereeing, and it was all because of him critiquing me and giving me advice as time went on, and I never forgot that. And in fact, one of the most prolific women's refs, Denise Brooks, who now referees women's Final Fours, Denise sat with him for years as he watched me ref. She was doing JV games, and he would give her tips too. And she went on to be a pretty big wig in the refereeing field there too.
Tell you just how good that referee team is. Now you got Palaia Park,
yeah,
and you got DeRouche Park.
That's right. That's right.
You know,
that's right.
It's amazing, really.
I just saw Dave at the Halloween parade. He was there with Marie. Yeah,
what a great guy.
He's doing well.
You know, we're sitting here with smiles on our face, talking about, you know, even though Joe's passed away, all you can do is smile at his life. You know,
Absolutely.
Really.
Well, no, with the reffing, he pretty much came to most of your games when you were reffing.
Yeah, absolutely. He didn't miss a thing. And he used to always tell me, if I did a big game, like a short conference finals or something, and I'm like, I was tired, I was hot. At one point, the boys' games would come on after. Place would be packed. Dad, let's go. He goes, no, you got to hang around. You did a good job. We want everybody to tell you that. And it really was good advice. It was good advice. And the other thing he never missed, my nephew Anthony played football at Ocean and baseball. He never missed a game of Anthony's.
Yeah.
And then Adrian, my other nephew, although he was not into sports, he was into theater. Never missed one of Adrian's plays either. So he would not miss one thing.
Yeah. And he would talk about it.
Yeah.
At council,
so
before council meetings,
Yeah.
sometimes we sit and chat, and he says, you know, what happened, this and this, and we talk about Adrian. You know, I went to a game last night, and he just loved his family.
Yeah.
Period.
Well, the amazing thing about that is because you hear about a lot of people, they never get to their kids' games and everything. You can't say that Joe Palaia wasn't busy.
Yeah,
But he
that's
was
true.
able to do
That's
that.
right. He would move his schedule around to be able to do it. And he wasn't one of those parents on the sideline screaming or yelling. You know, he would watch and he'd enjoy it. He'd enjoy, you know, the kids and love being there.
Well, now, he was also a teacher and a school principal. Tell us a little bit about that.
Oh, well, when I was born in 1957, he took over as principal at Wanamassa School. Before that, he taught social studies in the basement at Wanamassa School. And nobody else was down there. And in fact, he told us the story that they would forget to call him for assemblies because he was in the basement. Nobody else was down there, and they would forget to call him. One time, he sent a note to the office. I think Tony Covino was the principal at the time. He sent a note up with one of the kids. SOS, send help. The basement's flooding. He sent a note up with the kid. But he loved teaching, and then he became the principal at Wanamassa School. And the teachers to this day, today, talk about what a wonderful he was magnanimous. He loved what he did. He cared about not only every single child, but every single teacher, every single staff member that worked there. And I hope some of me he's rubbed off on me, and I bring that to my staff at Wayside School.
You have a lot of his genes.
Yeah, thanks, John. I appreciate it. But I cannot tell you, his teachers that come back, that talk to me about just all the things he did. Like a teacher that was having some personal issues, take a day off. Take a day off. You can't do that nowadays, but take a day off. But I want you to come back Monday focused and ready to go. And the person, think of them as a person, not just as a teacher. And they appreciated it, and they come back Monday ready to go. But that's something that he always thought of.
And he knew all the kids, always knew their names. They grew up, he still knew everybody.
That's right.
And they had stories about everybody.
Well, he had, I don't know, I guess at one point, Wanamassa School was on split station. There was almost 1,000 kids at Wanamassa School. I couldn't believe when he told me that. 1,300 kids, an amazing number, because it was split sessions. At Wayside, I have about 660, and I pride myself, too, on knowing at least 95% of their names. It rubs off on you.
Right. Yeah. John, what was your first meeting with Joe?
Well, my first meeting was my son came home. I guess we went to a conference or something when we first moved in. We moved into Ocean Township, and the kids went to Wanamassa School. But son John came home and he said, "I just met. What a nice man I just met." I said, "What had happened was Johnny was a fix-it kid. This was about 8 or 9 years old at the time. He tried to fix a door, and Joe caught him. And he says, 'What are you trying to do?' And he says, 'Well, this door needs fixing.' He says, 'Well, we'll get somebody to fix it, but if you want, why don't you get involved in, I think it's matchbook derby or something with the little cars?'"
Pinewood Derby.
Right, Pinewood Derby. And before you know, he came home and guess who? Dad, this is what we're going to do. I said, "Where'd you learn this?" He says, "Oh, real nice man today," they told me. But that was my first meeting. And then, of course, we played a little ball together or against each other. But I got to know him, and politically I got to know him through the JCs probably. We established a JC chapter, and we went to Joe for a couple of projects. If you want, I can, that's,
Well, actually, we have talked about it, the family and the sports and teachers and everything. Now we really should be talking, as you said, what a political life he had.
A fellow named Bob Cavallo said at the JC meeting, I was chairman, I was president, actually I was vice president, in charge of membership. And I asked if anybody wants to do something good for the township. Bob raised his hand and said, I think we need a drug abuse program. So I said, let's find out. So I knew Joe. We went to Joe, we sat, and I don't think, it was just before he was really the mayor. I think it was late 70. And he said, "What a great idea, and let's proceed." He says, "I'll talk to the Board of Education, and we'll get a meeting together." And that developed into a drug abuse program, which now went from my office, actually a room in my office is where John Neufeld used to start. We hired John Neufeld as a counselor, started there, then he moved across the street to an office, then he moved into a trailer, and then before you know it, guess what you have over here? You got a whole building.
Oh, human services.
Now it's human resources,
right?
And human services. And this all because of Joe kept pushing Bob and saying, he supported Bob, and and that's where that thing started. So you could put Joe's name on that building too, or with Bob too.
Yeah. Well, he started the United Citizens.
It was funny. He when things started, he was never really had any inclination to be in politics. He was in office in Neptune High School, but he just was passionate about certain things, and one of them was the moratorium on apartments, and he wanted to get some more regulations in that, and they decided to run for council. I think John and Bob Cavallo had talked him into it, so he decides to run, and There was the 5 incumbents, and then there was the 5 United Citizen ticket that they had put together. Yeah, and he was in the middle of the ticket. So the 5 incumbents, and his name was in the middle. He ended up to be the highest vote getter out of the 10 people on the ticket, which is incredible. And he ended up sitting for 4 years because the mayor is voted by the majority. The council, the majority council. And he said he sat for 4 years and he listened and he learned from the 4 men that were on the council at the time. Didn't say too much those first 4 years, but he learned a lot. And from that, he became the mayor after that.
They had passed to have 3,000 garden apartments in town.
Yeah.
Actually, there were more garden apartments than there were houses. So, and that was the campaign in '71, we're going to stop this building. And they did. And now you start working around, building houses around those apartments. So now the apartments are a lot smaller than they used to be, as far as the size of their percentages. So it's, but Joe, Joe's really, he just didn't like those garden apartments.
No, he just felt there was no regulations put on him at the time, and he felt the only way to do it was to get involved.
We had a lot of great ideas besides, I mean, from the '71, of course, Palaia deal test site came to be, that was '73, '4, somewhere in there.
Pool.
The pool, that opened in '75, I think it was, '75. And then, of course, what else can be better to talk about Joe Palaia than this building? I mean, we can ask you about this. I mean, this thing set up in the corner, and before you know it, you got this tremendous, and then you got 208 acres of deal test site that went Palaia Park. He picked up the other 42, and then you got Billy Goat Farm. I mean, this is what we said. When I visited him in the last years or so, he would talk about Billy Goat Farm before anything. I think he loved that program he put together. And you know something? We didn't have to pay for the building. They paid. She built the building for us. It was, he had a lot of pride. He talked about the garbage, the municipal garbage pickup that was established during his years. And I'm not sure it wasn't one of his ideas. And they used to laugh about Phil and Dick English. Phil Wetzel, Dick English picking up the trash from the first day. They didn't have enough help, so they picked it up. And then, of course, then you went into the newspaper ordinance.
Recycling.
And smoke detector. He brought Al Koenigan. He says, I brought Al in. I want you to see something there. The apartment built burnt in Middlebrook, and the damn smoke detector was still working. And he says, every house in this town has to have smoke detectors. And we passed the ordinance. Building. All these little things were Joe Palaia ideas.
And the other thing is, whenever I believe you could call, he would talk to you, but he would always get back to you.
Yeah, always.
He prided himself, and I think that's why he kept getting elected. I mean, who can say as a politician they were absolutely undefeated? In every level of government, he was undefeated.
Not to pass over a couple of things, but he used to, and we talked about Phil Wetzel was his buddy. Phil was, he's talking United Citizens. United Citizens organized we had Republicans and Democrats. In '63, they passed the Faulkner Act to go nonpartisan. Well, it really wasn't nonpartisan because Joe finally won, though, in '67 to make it a little bit nonpartisan. And then in '75 and '71, we put together totally nonpartisan. And '75 was even more nonpartisan. But those are things that Joe picked up on, and he loved. Don't ever change our form of government, John. Joe, he told me, he says, don't ever let them change our form of government. I mean, this is the best thing. It's the best thing in Ocean Township is the form of government that we have, nonpartisan. But he used to pride himself, like Phil. I mentioned Phil Wetzel because You know, Route 35 extension, that was Phil Wetzel. Man, he was all over that. You know,
Did a business on there.
yeah. And
Remember
and as far as Dickie English in Route 18, he used to laugh. He says, Dickie walked in and says, let's sue the town, the state of New Jersey, because, you know, Dick explained it a little differently when it says, Dickie walked in and he said that. And so that became fruition. I mean, we used to, you know, Deal Road, but Route 18 stopped at Deal Road, and coming south, it stopped at Wayside Road. So here we are, 3 miles of nothing but garbage going around us, you know. So he pushed a lot of things. You know.
And then he moved on.
Yes. He felt it was time. He felt he had more to give. He ended up moving on to as a freeholder. That was, although he enjoyed that, it was a short period of time. Very tough. Monmouth County is huge. My brother used to take him around campaigning in Allentown, all these places that the far reaches.
Freehold Township.
Yeah, Freehold Township. Yeah, it's a very large county. And he was elected, as he had been in all the other elections that he had been in. That certainly, he served only a very brief period of time because an assembly position had opened up.
Mm-hmm.
And that his dream was to be a state senator. And to get there, he became an assemblyman and ran with Doc Villain. And they had a very nice friendship and they'd play off of each other very well. And he enjoyed it, but he knew it was time to leave education because it took too much time. And he wasn't the kind of man who would do something halfway. And as you said, Paul, he would answer everybody's call, so it got to be too much. And he decided to, and he was only 55 when he retired from Wanamassa School, and he went in totally full-time, which was very unusual. Most of the politicians that were running Trenton at the time, and even now, are mostly lawyers or people that have other jobs. So he had decided to become an assemblyman and do it full-time. And as you said, Joan Bonavico, his right-hand woman, who was his secretary at Wanamassa School, moved on to be his legislative aide and was his right arm, would answer the phone. And one of the things that I do now as a principal, and I always, Dad, what are you doing? People would come into his office with a problem, and it would be a kind of a convoluted thing, or it could be something with immigration, it could be something with anything. And he would know what agency to call. So they would be there, and he would dial the phone and get the agency. Now, people can't do that. Lay people can't do that. And he would get the head of the agency on the phone. Okay, yeah, hold on. And he would give them the phone. Right there on the other end, people were shocked. And they would talk to whomever they needed to, and they would get some kind of a solution or a plan to help that person. And they would hang up, and they would be in his debt because he could do that. But he wanted to help, and he didn't want it to become a name on a list and I'll do it later or have someone else make a call. He would make sure he made the call to get them connected. And I do that too now in school. You know, if somebody has a problem, and I always thought that was kind of funny, he did that. I picked on that too, and it really made who he was. Because people had, with the smallest problems or the big problems, knew that he would try, if he couldn't do something, he would try to help them.
Yeah.
It was important to him.
John kind of alluded to it with the museum where we are now. When this building was moved here, naturally we needed a lot of money. And Joe said, well, okay, we're going to take care of it. All of a sudden we had a grant for $150,000 to get us started, which was, and he got more, but that's what really got us going here so that we could complete this building.
I know.
Let me point out one thing.
Okay.
We're going to talk about Joe's political career, but before we do, let's talk about Ocean Township.
Okay.
This was presented to Joe.
It's on the front.
Look,
Yeah.
I was chairman of the United Citizens for 13 years, something like that. But when Joe retired from council, we gave him this because he loved horses, and it says confidence. That what you gave to the Township of Ocean was confidence. And that was the Joe Palaia. Everybody loved him.
He displays that proudly in the house, John.
He tried to name the one-horse confidence, but it was already taken.
Well, that's great. Well, I think we've covered a lot, and why don't we just, at the end, both of you, just tell us what kind of man he was and how to remember him. And I think that would really be a good way to.
Did I read something?
You can certainly read something.
This was the petition given to the President and Congress of the United States. Whereas given the record, this is what they think of Joe Palaia. Whereas given the record of achievement and service to Monmouth County and to this state, it is fitting and proper that the state of New Jersey honors Senator Palaia by designating February 3rd of each year as Senator Joseph Palaia Day in New Jersey, now, therefore. Be it resolved that the Senate and the General Assembly of the State of New Jersey, February 3rd of each year, designated Senator Joseph Palaia Day in the State of New Jersey in recognition of his many outstanding contributions to the state. The governor annually issue a proclamation and call upon public officials, private organizations, and all citizens of the state to observe this celebration each year with appropriate events and activities. That's what everybody thought of Joe Palaia.
That was just passed this year.
Yeah, it was.
In February
and
of this year.
We had a very nice ceremony at my school. It was very nice.
Okay.
So, I mean, you can't say more,
Yeah.
That really is very good. Denise, what do you...
Couple things as I try to sum up. One of the things, too, when he became an assemblyman and we walked in to the Senate, Assembly chambers the first time, and we didn't know where to put our coats. I was with my mother and my brother. And, it was kind of, no one knew what to do, and he kind of looked around and was looking for help. And when he left there, when he walked in that day, he said, when I leave here, they'll know who I am. And they did.
No, just one other thing as far as recognition. There's he had his master's degree from Rutgers University. And there's a park in back of, the Winans Hall, which is the administration building. And this is what the bench looks like. And in the bench, this is what it's described. There's only 12 benches now. Joseph A. Palaia, master's degree in 1956, from educator to legislator, he gave you confidence. It's another recognition of Joe Palaia.
That was thanks to you, John.
That's,
All right, one more thing I just wanted to say.
Okay.
People, he was always nice to everybody. And people said, oh, he's always so nice. He was like that all the time. He was like that at home. He was like that when he dealt with people in his legislative office. But he was like that all the time.
Yeah, he should.
Yeah. Thank you very much, both of you. Denise particularly, and what a wonderful man. And John as a great friend. We really appreciate this. And
I tell you, smiles overcome tears sometimes.
yeah.
Because when you think about him, just one super guy.
Okay. Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you both. And we will. The museum would like to thank both of them for coming here today. This CD or film will be available on oceanmuseum.org on our website, and probably a little bit later on Channel 77. So look for it then. And we have now recorded some great history, which in the future everybody will be able to take a look at and see. Thanks again.